The federal government has now released its draft plan for a national carbon tax. It won't affect the 5 provinces who already have a tax on carbon, and there will be some leeway for the 4 provinces who are actively developing carbon pricing plans, as long as all the provinces end up meeting minimum federal standards. The draft plan calls for all provinces and territories to have a price on carbon by next year. If not, the federal government will impose a price. It's already set that price at $10 a tonne in 2018, rising to $50 a tonne by 2022. That, so you know, would add nearly 12 cents a litre to the price of gasoline and boost the cost of natural gas and electricity. There would be a cap-and-trade system for major companies. The draft outlines the possible ways that Ottawa will return all monies raised from the carbon tax to the provinces, either in lump sum payments to the governments or by way of rebates to businesses or consumers. Now, only Saskatchewan has flat out said no to a carbon tax and threatened to take the federal government to court. We'll hear from the province's Environment Minister in a moment, but first, here's the Federal Minister of the Environment speaking with reporters today in Ottawa, defending the federal government's right to impose the tax on the provinces.
If you consider all the provinces that supported our pan-Canadian plan on climate change, I think that brings us up to 97% of Canadians. We would like to ensure, because of fairness, for reasons of fairness, but also because it will foster innovation, that we have a price of pollution across the country. We think the provinces are best placed to do that, but we have designed a federal option that we believe is smart. We have spent a lot of time talking to businesses across the country, talking to businesses in Saskatchewan, to develop a plan that we believe provides the certainty that businesses need, that recognizes the need to be competitive, and that will also have an impact on reducing emissions, because this is what we know we need to be doing to ensure that we have a cleaner future for our kids and grandkids, and also to foster innovation.
Well, the government of Saskatchewan is the only absolute holdout against a carbon tax and has threatened to take Ottawa to court if it has to over all of this. Scott Moe is the province's Environment Minister, and he joins me now from Regina tonight. Mr. Moe, it's good to see you again. Thanks for taking time this evening to speak with me.
That's appreciated. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, we've got the draft plan now from the federal government today on how it wants a national carbon pricing plan adopted by all provinces in the country, including yours. It's referred to as a discussion paper. Is there anything here for you to discuss?
Yeah, it is referred to as a discussion paper. We'll obviously be going through the paper, and we'll be making a submission as well, and we'll ask Saskatchewan people as well to make a submission on the paper, as well as how it may affect them, and we will be coming out with an email address shortly that they CC us as well as the government of Saskatchewan. But you know, I guess therein lies the question: is it, although it's termed as a discussion paper, it seems like much more of a directional paper than that.
Okay, so Ottawa says it will impose its plan if you won't adopt it. So what will you do?
Well, again, our position hasn't changed on this. This is a carbon tax in the province of Saskatchewan is very, very challenging. It's challenging in industries. Quite frankly, we had 1,000 businesses' signatures delivered to us yesterday in opposition to a federally imposed carbon tax. We had a couple of other business organizations out today with an event also opposed to a taxation on what would essentially start out as a gas tax. So we will do what we need to ensure that this isn't imposed on Saskatchewan industries and ultimately affects the careers and families and communities across the province.
So how far will you go to prevent it being imposed on you? What are you prepared to do?
Well, I think the Premier's indicated that we'll do whatever that takes. If that means that we have to enter into the courts, we'll do that. But we'll, we've had good discussions on other facets here as well. And the carbon tax is the one that is the headline grabber, obviously. But the other conversation that's going on across the province in our jurisdictions and with our federal government, quite frankly, is what are we actually doing in the way of technology and innovation across the nation on reducing our carbon footprint? And this is something that Saskatchewan is very, very active in and will continue to be. We have a 40% reduction target in our electrical generation market. We have a great history in agriculture. Although it's been mentioned, it isn't going to get the recognition, and therein lies our concerns with this discussion paper, this imposed carbon taxes. These industries, although they have made great strides in their environmental footprint, whether it be potash industry, whether it be in the steel fabricator or agriculture, those efforts aren't recognized as we move forward under this system.
All right, so essentially you feel you're doing enough as a government and as a province to fight emissions, that you don't need to have Ottawa tell you how to do it and what your target should be, all right?
We don't feel a carbon tax is going to lower emissions. We feel a carbon tax will have an impact on industries here in the province, our energy-intense, trade-exposed industries that we have in mining, in agriculture, in steel fabrication, in the energy industry, and ultimately is going to affect the people that work in those industries and communities right across the province. Those industries are undergoing challenges due to natural resource prices right now, and now is just definitely not the time to add this type of a tax on the people of the province.
The federal environment minister has been saying, she said it again today, that the national government in effect has the authority to impose a carbon price on any province, even on provincially owned utilities, because pollution is a cross-border environmental issue, and that's why the federal government feels it has the authority to act. What's your response to that?
Well, we'll have the opportunity to have that discussion, I'm sure, over the next number of weeks as to what authority the federal government has to enact this particular tax on one province that chooses not to. They've put out their discussion paper or their position paper, quite frankly, on you know, what they intend to do. I don't think that's a surprise. They've talked about bringing just this type of backstop in. But at the end of the day, you know, the fact of the matter is it's our position that we need to continue to support you know, the people in the careers and industries across the province of Saskatchewan. We have concerns in particular in Western Canada. There's been no example of where carbon tax has reduced emissions or made for a better environmental outcome in any way, shape, or form. So the fact of the matter is where we need to focus is what we actually are doing with technology, with knowledge, with innovation. We have a great history of that here in the province of Saskatchewan, and we need to really focus on things like carbon capture and storage, on things that have occurred in agriculture, and sharing that knowledge around the world to really address carbon emissions, not just here in the province, not just in North America even for that matter, but in countries all over the world.
Okay, let me finish on two quick points here. The minister also makes the case, look, this isn't a tax, it's a levy, and that any money collected by the federal government from, in this case, Saskatchewan, will go right back to the people of Saskatchewan. Why is that bad?
It's been indicated that the dollars that would be collected by the Prime Minister, by the Minister McKenna, would be returned to the government of Saskatchewan. The government of Saskatchewan would choose what they could do with those dollars. The fact of the matter is again, it won't go back to those industries that are paying the tax. That's been shown in other jurisdictions, and if it does, then really why are you collecting it in the first place? We feel there's an opportunity to focus, as I said, more on the knowledge and technology and innovation to actually reduce our carbon footprint.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's finish on that. You talked about innovation, how to reduce your carbon footprint. Federal government, we know, has a big pool of green funding to distribute for these kinds of projects. But it's only going to provinces that adopt a carbon pricing system. Are you willing to forego that federal funding if you don't follow the federal government's rules?
We indicated, you know, in days gone by here that we're very concerned that that federal funding would be tied to a province putting a carbon tax on the people in the industries within that province. Quite frankly, we'll be relying on some of the infrastructure funding that comes, so that we're able to reduce our carbon footprint in many of our ways. We have, you know, a target in our electrical sector, for example, of reducing our emissions by 40%, moving to a 50% renewable source there, and that's going to take investment by the people of Saskatchewan, and we'd like to access some of the green infrastructure funds to do just that.
Okay, we'll continue to follow the story. Scott Moe, always good to talk to you. Thanks for speaking with me tonight.
Appreciate it, Peter.